Hello there, Geeks and Gamers. It is I, Jesse Milestone, bringing you your weekly dose of fluffy hair. And today I would really like to discuss Marvel. Not just Captain Marvel, but the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe, its future, and the fact that Captain Marvel has made a liar out of Kevin Feige. That's the reality. Why? Because, back in the day, before all this Marvel hype, his own statement was that was the next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe was going to feature Spider-Man. That Spider-Man was going to be sort of the figurehead, the leading guy in the next phase, in the post-Endgame phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And now he's saying that honor and distinction is going to go to none other than Captain Marvel. And of course, you have Brie Larson running all over town talking about how she is going to be the leader of the Avengers and wants to have all these other ladies on board. And Kevin Feige's been echoing this sentiment. He's been saying that the future of Marvel is female. That we're just going to see more and more female leads in the MCU, that the future Avengers are going to be largely, if not all, comprised of women, is sort of the tone that we're getting. And I am not a person who's mad about female characters, strong female characters, female superheroes. I just don't know how this works in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it also seems odd to me that this is a midstream course correction. This is a huge change that we're going for. This is not what it's been planned from the beginning, because we have previous statements conflicting with and contrasting what we're hearing now. And you have to wonder, when you're talking about Marvel, this is a long, they've been playing the long game for a long time. You have to wonder, maybe they weren't as sure that there would be a post-Endgame, or what would happen in that scenario, in that eventuality, because they've been building up to this for a long time, for over a decade now. We've been building since we got our first taste that the Avengers were coming. In our first little scene in The Incredible Hulk, and then, of course, Iron Man and beyond, we've been building to this moment, to this epic showdown with Thanos. They've been teasing Thanos since the first Avengers movie, right? So there's been some long-term planning going into the building of this universe. Did they know everything that was going to happen along the way? Not necessarily. I mean, they didn't acquire the Spider-Man property. They didn't expect to acquire it as quickly as they did, and did not acquire it until later in the game. So that obviously had to factor in at some point. So some changes have had to be made, but for the most part, you really get the sense that this blueprint, this roadmap, was set from the beginning. I mean, you even had things like this character will return in this movie, that in this year, knowing the release dates sometimes years ahead of time, the schedule of release for future films. So this is a very carefully planned out, mapped out world, and now it feels like we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants. The future is uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we know we have the Spider-Man film coming out later this year, and obviously Endgame coming up really, really soon, and then like where do we go from there? Now we know that Brie Larson is under contract for 7 more films. That doesn't mean she'll be in 7 more films, but she's contracted to do at least that many more. And we know that I think we've had it confirmed that she's going to be involved, justifiably so, in the Rogue storyline. So we're going to have some intermingling of X-Men here now and the Avengers. But aside from that, I don't get the sense that we have a clear path forward. It feels like the MCU for the first time is floundering a little bit. I mean, not entirely, obviously. They're not dealing with any major disasters yet. We don't know yet how Brie Larson's PR nightmare is going to affect the opening weekend for Captain Marvel. That remains to be seen. But you have to wonder, like, what if it is? What if it is an absolute disaster? What if people hate the film? What if it doesn't make any money? And now they've just spun this entire narrative about their female-centric future. Well, what if that collapses underneath them? How many plans have they made that are contingent upon this? Is it more set in stone than we know? And if that's the case, and everything goes sideways, how are they going to recoup and recover from that? There are a lot of open-ended questions here, and it's becoming very unclear about this way forward. And so I want to go back to the point I made, which I'm not happy about female superheroes, but one of the things that made the Marvel Cinematic Universe special is that it always had something for the fans. And I was never a huge comic book person, so I learned a lot about this stuff as I went along. And obviously the elements were changed, story elements were changed. The narrative structure of comics don't work at all the same as film, as cinema. So a lot of elements have to be changed in order to work. There are certain realities or ideas of reality that we accept in comic book land, or that people who read comics are more willing to accept because that's the type of universes you build, whereas you have to ground it a little more in a lot of ways for film. But at the same time, you really had the bringing to life of these comics, of these rich stories, of these characters that people cared about. There was a lot of feeling invested in them. And everything that I've personally heard so far regarding Carol Danvers is not a lot of investment. There's not a lot of fan investment in this character, at least not any that I've been exposed to. And this is, I learned so much about Thanos and his backstory and his motivations from people talking about that after Infinity War. Some people who liked the movie, some people had issues with it, but either way, people were discussing it. They were discussing how he was like his character in the comics, how he wasn't. And now with what we've been teased with Captain Marvel, it really seems like Carol Danvers is not a character a lot of people have been super invested in. And it certainly doesn't help that she's gone through, a lot of identity shifts, and that she's one of the later people to take on the mantle of Captain Marvel. So already you have the sense of, like, people are more invested in an idea of Captain Marvel that isn't Carol Danvers, but the version we're getting is Carol Danvers. So right now we have we're dialing back, we're pushing up, we're pulling away from the Marvel that gives to its fans, and we're coming into a Marvel that now wants to give to third wave angry feminism, and so I am confused and concerned because I don't like pandering to feminism. I don't think that makes a good story. I don't think that makes a good narrative. So when you see something like this, when you see that Marvel is hinging its potential future on a character that a lot of people really just don't give a shit about, you really have to worry that they're doing this to try to now spin an agenda. They're trying to push their politics. They're trying to push an idea more so than continue to bring Marvel to life on the screens. And I mean, it really makes me worried for the future. If you guys watched Josiah's video on Geeks and Gamers just the other day, he talks a lot about this, how it feels like, now as a longtime diehard MCU fan, he's really understanding what the hardcore Star Wars fans felt for The Last Jedi. He felt that too for The Last Jedi, and now it's happening again. So are you going to see the same kind of backlash? I think yes. I think you're already seeing it. But the reality is that the Marvel comic book universe has a rich and storied history with its own fans and its own diehard followers. And if you disrespect them the way that The Last Jedi disrespected Star Wars fans, you're going to have the same fallout, and you're going to have the same backlash. And you're going to take this beautifully crafted universe, something that was, has been built over the course of a decade plus, and just watch that crumble before your eyes. So that's my concern for the future. That's my concern for where we're headed. It feels like we're a little bit like we're unmoored. We're a ship without a bearing, just sailing off into the night. So if you guys have the same concerns that I do, and call me out or back me up on the Carol Danvers thing. If you guys love Carol Danvers and thought she was the shit in the comics, by all means, call me out on that, because I'm gonna be the first one to tell you that I'm not as into the comics as the next person. So by all means, correct me on that. Correct me on anything else I've said regarding the Marvel comic book universe coming into the new one. I'm here to learn as well. I'm interested in learning. I don't mind being told that I'm wrong, unlike some people. So yeah, go for that. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to hear more from this, Mindless Entertainment, you can find me there all the time doing all of the yelling. So look forward to hearing more from you, and we'll see you guys next week.